Not all Republicans are into conspiracy theories or getting their information from dubious newsletters that come from who knows where. But those that do had this moment of opportunity in 1964 where the Republican Party welcomed them. And that's what I want to tell you about today. In 1964, a Republican named Barry Goldwater ran against Lyndon Johnson to be President of the United States. While accepting the nomination at the RNC, he used this now famous line: "Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. Moderation in pursuit of justice is no virtue." Which was a big deal. Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. What kind of extremism was he talking about? One of those groups was the John Birch Society. Now, the John Birch Society believed a lot of things, like that President Eisenhower and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court were both communists. They were not. Birchers railed against fluoride in the water, protested things they didn't like, and generally made a big stink whenever something upset them, sometimes even running people out of town. Another group that was making a big stink was the KKK. I'm just going to assume you know about them by now. Before Barry Goldwater delivered his now famous line, a group of Republican leaders brought forward a plank that they wanted to add to the platform. And that was, they wanted to denounce extremist groups like the John Birch Society and the KKK, who they listed by name. That measure failed. Nelson Rockefeller was literally booed when he was at the podium trying to defend that plank. So later, when Goldwater delivered his now famous line, "Extremism in defense of liberty is no vice," this is what he was referring to, that plank about the KKK and the Birchers. He was welcoming extremists into the Republican Party. This was their time, so long as you stood up for liberty, or whatever you thought was liberty. Former President Republican Dwight D. Eisenhower called the speech an offense to the whole American system. Richard Nixon, who was not yet president and was not really a squeamish guy, said that the speech gave him an upset stomach. I've made some great podcast episodes about this, so if you want to learn more about Barry Goldwater, the GOP, the John Birch Society, head on over to the Truce podcast. This season, I'm covering this big question of how did some evangelicals tie themselves to the Republican Party in the 1970s and 80s. You can hear the Truce podcast anywhere you get podcasts or listen at trucepodcast.com.